Look, I've been clear and everybody knows at this point that I prefer Arsenal to focus on the big competitions and leave the little easy ones aside. But it's still nice to win away at Inter. This is the ArsenalVision Post-Match Podcast. My name's Elliot Smith. You can block me on Twitter, Gunner. Yeah, you know, that easy small competition, the Champions League. It's kind of a piece of piss, but we can still turn up, turn over some clubs and have a nice time. And that's really what we're doing in the Champions League. And I, for one, am enjoying it. It's a nice distraction from real challenging competitions like the Premier League. Welcome back to me, back in the hosting chair. Look, I don't want to sit here and praise Phil, so I won't. I'm not going to do that. Let me see him try to drag this chair away from my backside again. It'll probably happen. Probably happen by listener demand. But I'm here for now, and you can't get rid of me for now. Now, yesterday, we did a pod on the Academy, and I think we're going to try to make that a regular thing because people have been asking for it. So Will Balsam from Hale End Productions came on. We did talk the Ethan situation because it was sort of breaking. That's not really Academy news, but we talked about it if you want it in there. We talked Max. We talked Per leaving, obviously, the contractual situation in academies and how that's becoming the new frontier for poaching talent and why, and who the other names are maybe to keep an eye on in the Academy who are heralded, just not as heralded as players like Max and Ethan. As a result, you may not be as familiar with them. So a good pod, one to check out. A really good pod is called Friday Night Clive. We do it on, it says here, Friday nights. That means it's coming tomorrow, and you can check that out. Rice50 is the code if you want half off and get everything we have to offer, all of our wares, for a few quid, and see what you think of them. If you do not want our wares, that's okay. You can have these wares. These wares that we are presenting to you now are your wares to have. And here to share their wares with me, I don't know, is Tim. Hello, Tim.
Hello there. Speaking of wares, I realized that the branding on my jumper is Champions, and that's not deliberate. But I will be wearing it in May.
I'm going to ask you what everybody listening is thinking. Have you run that by the Liverpool fans?
Of course, they invented it, didn't they? Winning stuff. Yeah, sorry about that.
Safe trip back from Milan.
Yeah, I foolishly got the 6:30 a.m. flight home so I could be back in time for the women's game. So, yeah, I was rolling on 2 hours sleep yesterday. So, but all good, all good.
The only flight I'd be having at 6:30 is a flight of beautiful Chiantis. Clive, hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. Looking forward to this conversation. Looking forward to the weekend.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to one of those things too. I'm kidding. I want to give a shout out, by the way, to the wonderful away fans, a friend of mine, Tone, and many away fans who have just seen Arsenal play away in 4 different competitions in 10 days, which is a remarkable run. And I don't think it's happened before. So kudos to the Arsenal and kudos to the Arsenal away support, the best support in all the world. And I think on that, even Liverpool fans would have to agree. Okay, let's dive into it. We're going to get into the Inter game. We're going to spend a lot of time on the United game, of course, as well, and maybe a little bit about the Champions League generally, because it's throwing up a really interesting situation that's probably worth a chat. But let's just do a quick bit, Clive, on Ethan. He's off to Marseille. It's a loan move for the player. A massive, massive talent. Broke in last season. Very eye-catching off the wing, but a player whose future is in midfield. It's a harder position, not only to learn, but to nail down minutes in a team that's trying to win all the stuff we're trying to win. So he goes. I mean, my singular regret here is, could he have just played the Kairat game, then gone? But, that's small potatoes. What's really interesting that I'd love for you to talk about here are some of the criteria for the loan and the way the loan pays out, because I think it's really intelligent. So what do you think of him going to Marseille, the structure of the deal, and the tutelage of De Zerbi?
Yeah, well, De Zerbi, I didn't know much about him before he came to Brighton, but he's a coach's coach, and people like him. You know, those coaches that like each other and they copy each other, and particularly his build-up. He plays like a 4-4-2 almost like a 4-2-2. The wingers coming off the side, and so everyone rolls into the central build-up and they spin it out wide and go from there. But you've got to be technical in that interior. And guess what? Ethan is very technical in that interior. Can play inside in the midfield or start from the outside. So I think it's a really good choice. I think Mikel, from reading and listening to people that are closer to the deal, basically he wanted this deal. He wanted this manager. And like many of us, we work for companies, but you really work for people, and the 10 people that control your life are the people that you work with every single day. And this is it. Same for Ethan. You can go to teams, but who are the people around you going to look after your career, develop your career in the right way? And I'm really pleased that he's backed himself to go and do this. However he's come around, I don't know. I don't care. But those who saw him at Portsmouth, I think you went at Portsmouth, didn't you, Tim? I think you did. When as soon as you saw that ball arrive at his feet at Portsmouth on that average pitch, and it stuck to him like glue, you're thinking, mate, something's got to change here. So honestly, something's got to change. Either he's got to get in the squad, or he's got to play, because that talent can't be sitting around. And so if that was a trigger, great, because it seemed at the start of the window that he was going to stay to the end of the season. Everyone's all in on this year and make sure they enjoy this all together, whatever happens. But something changed on that day, and I think it's an important moment for us to recognise he needs to develop. And this is a developmental move. And just to aid that developmental move, you make it financially incentivised to make sure he plays. So from what I've read, the loan fee is about £4 million, but it will reduce the more he plays. So you don't play him, you pay. You know, so guess what? He's got a good chance of playing. So that's covering his wage and that fee. So he's got a good chance of playing in a good environment, in a very hostile environment. I haven't been to Marseille before, but the stadium looks magnificent, you know, and the crowd looks strong. So yeah, what a great experience for him.
Yeah. Yep. I think it's great. And there will certainly be a spike in viewership for Marseille games, I think it's fair to say. I think it's structured in an intelligent way. If you listen to the Academy pod we did yesterday, some of the changes coming to the Academy relate to how we tie down players to contracts and how we get them loans, and those two things are deeply interconnected. But this feels like the right move. I mean, there's a world where if Ethan hadn't played the number of first-team minutes he did last season, you could still be developing in the reserves this season under our guidance, under our observation, getting the odd few minutes in the first team, and everyone would feel that that was on time. But that's not what happened. Ethan played substantial first team minutes last season. Pandora's box is open, right? The cat is out of the bag, and the player wants the minutes. And careers are best not going backwards. Even if you look at players like Foden, who played fewer minutes at the same age, he's played those minutes, Clive, so he's going to want first team minutes, senior football. I think that's what he needs, and I think it's the right move.
Yeah, I think, I'll correct you there, there's no reserves anymore. It's just under 21s football.
Under 21, sorry. Yeah.
And that gap between adults football and under 21s football, where you're playing basically 17-year-olds, you're playing them up to develop them.
Yeah.
Even to come back as a pretty well developed England under 21 international, has played in the Premier League, scored 19 goals last season, has played in Champions League. To go back to under 21s football doesn't work anymore for him.
Right.
You know? So he has to find a way to get adults football either with us or elsewhere. And this is a decision that we have to make strategically. And it's not just for the men's team. I'm sure Tim can give you 20 stories about some of the young England players we have at Arsenal women's team that we have to loan out down the league to make sure they can play, because just to cover the gap so they're ready for the Arsenal first team. And this is something we have to get better at, significantly better at.
I mean, at the time, there was a lot of anxiety around it. And I was one of the people who had anxiety about how it was being handled. But you look at what we did with William Saliba and his ability to then step right in as an elite level, and you could not have scripted it any better. Now, I'm not going to say that's how all of these things inevitably work out, but that did. I think this has every opportunity to as well, and we can now observe his development without the intensity of scrutiny around his minutes and the sort of internecine effects of that debate and that discourse. So I think that's a nice thing, and I think it's positive for everybody involved. Tim, are you okay if we skip any further Ethan discussion so we can get into the Inter game?
Yeah, sure. I wrote my column about it this week, which went up about an hour and a half ago. So all of my thoughts and opinions on it are in there.
If you feel you've been shortchanged Tim's thoughts, I cannot recommend highly enough the wonderful article he's written today about this topic. Tim, do you have any quick farewells to the San Siro that you want to give, or straight into the game?
It's actually, this is I think a slight miscomprehension. It's not being like knocked down yet. They've got the Winter Olympics there this year, which means they've actually given it a lick of paint, I think, for the first time since the place went up. It looks great from the outside, and obviously it's an iconic stadium and those towers and everything. It kind of reminds me of old Wembley in that, yeah, it's iconic. That doesn't stop the fact that it's a dump. That's like
Old Trafford would like a word.
Yeah, exactly. That's like barely habitable by humans anymore. Absolutely like covered in pigeon feces. And I mean, I didn't brave the toilets this time, but they are literally a hole in the ground, and the catering situation is rubbish, and they stick you up in the. It's not a nice experience. In terms of, if you care about that sort of thing, they keep you in for a long time afterwards until the last metro's gone and all of that. It'd be really nice if UEFA cared even 1% about that stuff, because my view is, if your home fans are so untrustworthy that you have to inconvenience away fans like that, parts of your ground should be shut, and you should be punished for that. But UEFA don't care about fan safety at all. It was my 5th time there. I won't lie, I'm not massively keen to return. I wanted the away credit, and I hadn't done a European away since Madrid, actually. So, yeah, I ticked it off in the most perfunctory way, but still a good time had.
Yeah. And Milan is obviously Italy, and Italy is obviously a great place to eat food. And so, you've got that going for you. I will say, having not been to the San Siro myself, I would stay away simply to avoid Megaphone Guy, who I don't enjoy.
Oh, you're far too far away from that for that to make any difference.
Okay. Like, well, on TV you're not. Let me just say that.
You're up in the back of the 3rd tier. You might as well be watching from the plane, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, okay. So setting that aside, there was a game to be discussed here. I want to go meta for a second. This season is just an emotional slog, and you called it, Tim. You said title races aren't fun. Don't expect it to be fun. This is going to be anxiety-inducing right up until the moment we are confirmed champions, which I expect will be at the Etihad in April. But prior to that, it's going to be tough emotionally. And against all odds, the Champions League has been an opportunity to not only relieve some of that psychological pressure, but also serve, I think, as a reminder for those of us who start to doubt and question and worry that, we're actually really, really good. And it just turns out the Premier League is a phenomenally strong league, top to bottom. It's an attritional battle from day one. Teams are taking points off each other left and right. But we get into Europe, we've won every single game. We're top of the table. We'd have to lose to Kairat by multiple goals to not finish top of the table. And I'm here to tell you, I don't think that's happening. So have you enjoyed psychologically not only the reduced stress of the Champions League, but the reminder to us of our quality when we step away from the Premier League and see ourselves with clear eyes?
Yeah, hugely. In fact, this conversation I had with my mate on the way out, going down those towers, takes a long time to get down. And we were kind of saying, like, I was at the San Siro in 2003 when we beat Inter 5-1. I was there in 2008 when we beat AC Milan 2-0. And both of those results felt and still feel generationally seismic. I remember 3 or 4 away games after that 5-1 win over Inter in 2003. We were chanting 5-1 in the San Siro. Like, it was an epic generational feeling result to go to a place like that and win like that. And that was the Invincibles. And actually, if you look at how that game happened against Inter Milan, it had no business being 5-1. We went 2-1 up. We hung on, we played 4-5-1, and then we got 3 goals on the break in the last 2 minutes. Like, it wasn't a 5-1 game. And that 2-0 win over AC Milan in 2008 really felt like a coming of age, like Fabregas kind of leading the charge with that. I think Adebayor scored as well, Walcott, and that was during that season where it felt like we might win the league, and that felt kind of really generational. That team didn't turn out to be that, but winning at the San Siro felt like absolutely huge. And we were walking out on Tuesday night and we were like, and this is going to sound like a complaint, and it's not, because my view is this is a reflection on how good we are at the moment and also how strong the league we are trying to win is. But we were like, we made 7 changes, went away to Milan, beat them. I wouldn't say easily is overstating it, but we were like, that was a 3-1 game. I think we were very, very well worth the scoreline. And maybe it's just because the stakes were less than they were in 2003, when if we hadn't done that, we'd have been on the verge of going out in the group stage. Milan in 2008, that was a knockout game, but we were a bit like, this feels really like routine, actually. And it's like an illustration of how much the economics of European football have changed, because I'm not Phil. I'm not like someone who watches a lot of European football. Honestly, I think I knew about 4 of those Inter players, which is kind of my ignorance as well, but it was just a bit like, I think Bournemouth might be better than these guys. Like, certainly like Bournemouth away, Nottingham Forest away, feel like harder games than this. And also, obviously, I'm sure we'll come on to this, a lot of that is because of the approach of these teams as well. Like, Inter did not throw up a 10-man deep block and sit in their penalty area and not do anything. And most teams in the Champions League don't do that either.
Yeah, and just to make the point a little bit is this is still an Inter team that was, first of all, in the Champions League final last season, obviously, but also is top of Serie A with 49 points from 21 matches played and a 27-goal difference. You know, they've been good domestically. They've been certainly pretty decent in Europe. But this is just different level. And I mean, look, Arsenal used to lose group games all the time. In 2015-16, we started the group phase losing to Dinamo Zagreb away and losing to Olympiacos at home and snuck through to the group with some unexpected wins later. But now here we are winning every single game. Clive, let's get into the game a little bit, though. And the lineup is obviously a talking point whenever there's rotation. So what stood out to you about the players you picked? Who were the ones you were excited to see get in there? And I think, you know, there's so much scrutiny on our attack and how we create chances. So obviously any update to the midfield and the attacking line is going to be the focus. We'll get into Gabriel Jesus in a moment. But for you, what did you have your eye on as a critical point to examine in this game?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that stand out. The 7 changes. That's all. What have we got here? Who are we resting, really? You know, and because we've got another game coming up. You try your best to get your head into your mind, into the manager's mind about what he's tried to do in these block of 4 games, which I'm sure he had a plan for. You can almost tell where Gabriel Jesus was questioned after the game about is he starting the next one. He immediately sort of shut down and sort of said, "Got to respect your teammates and respect the manager's choice, etc., etc." I think they all know who's playing. We don't, but they all do. And so a couple of players obviously stand out. Obviously, Myles coming out left back. Make sure we don't do what we did to Ben White before, which is overplaying him and his hamstring go. So that felt smart. Eze come into midfield. So, you know, maybe switch us around a little bit, maybe with the 8-10 playing on the left-hand side rather than the right-hand side. And seeing how him and Reno play together. And Trossard back out there, Saka back out there. Some people may not wanted him to play, save him for Sunday. And so the rest is good. Timber back on the right-hand side and seeing that combination again. And Mosquera coming in again, which is wise. Gabby's had an injury, played a lot of games. Give him a chance to have a little sit down. We don't want to break him because we all know he is one of the most influential players in the Premier League. And so, yeah, as soon as I see that, I think, right, how are we going to play? That's really it for me. How are we going to play? The players are great. We've got loads of players we can pick. They all can play football. How are we going to play? And so the thing that interested me more than lineup was how we started the game. We started the game like something incredible. It's like, you know, I'm not sure if the team was sitting or standing, probably standing. And but you're immediately leaning forward the way we're pressing into them. You're leaning forward in your settee. You're leaning forward. You're thinking, what the hell is this? And this is like incredible. This isn't because they just felt it. This isn't because they think, I feel a bit fresh today. I'll just go out there and just press them. It's just what interests me about this team and this manager is how he just changes his tactics so much, so quickly, how the players buy into it immediately. So we're pressing onto them, really aggressive. When was the last time you see that? We get the ball, ping, ping, ping down the middle. We spent 3 weeks looking at it going out to the wings. It's just completely changed. I mean, I just found it incredible how quick it happened. And I also found it really nice. I'm sure everyone feels the same, how enjoyable it was. You know, and that's the key. It just felt enjoyable. It got to a point where it got to 1-1. And I said to my boy, I said, I want us to win, but I'm not really that bothered because I'm loving what I'm seeing. I say that stuff sometimes. We go 2-1 down. Trust me, I'll be a load of crap. I've been losing my mind. But I was enjoying it so much. I felt the performance was something that I really wanted to see. Certain aspects of it sort of concluded a few things I've had in my mind that I've maybe discussed on here a few times. But in the end, all I want to see is a team that can adapt, wants to adapt, and that can play different ways because that is the modern game.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun, but I do want to say there's always going to be an instinct to regard the reason it was a lot of fun as related to certain selections. Oh, we picked these guys and look at the central access or look at the thing we did here. I just want to call one thing out that Christian Kivu, the Inter manager, said post-match that I thought was really, really instructive, and we should all bear this in mind. He said, and this isn't a quote, I'm just going to give you the generalization of it because, like a true professional, I don't have the quote in front of me. He said, I've been trying to drill into my players to explain to them the intensity out of possession of these Premier League teams, the intensity of Arsenal off the ball, the physicality and the pace and the intensity of the way they close you down. I've been trying to tell my players that's what's needed out of possession. But until you experience it, you can't explain it. They have to feel it for themselves. And I think there's some really interesting information that, which is simply the pace and intensity of the Premier League has always been talked about for years. But I think now it really is at a totally different level. The athletes, the physicality, the out of possession intensity, the way space is closed down. And so we get to Europe and it's like you're playing football on 0.75 speed. You ever played a podcast at like 0.5 speed by accident and everyone seems drunk? like
that's me every time.
Yeah. Or just listen to anyone who doesn't talk the way I talk and it sounds that way. But like, I think that one of the reasons you have access to the central space and the way we are able to build attacks is it's like you can breathe again because the players on the continent are not prepared for and exposed to and ready to play at the level of intensity and pace and out of possession fundamentals that you see in the Premier League week in, week out. So I thought that was a really interesting comment. And it's something to keep an eye on as we move through the through the Champions League. There is a pretty good chance, by the way, that we will finish top. I mean, it's almost a lock that we will, and that Bayern will finish second. And that would mean we could not face Bayern until the final. And we will have the second leg at home all the way through the Champions League. The other thing I will tell you, though, and you've been saying this all the way along, Clive, this is probably the season where if we want to win the Champions League, we're going to have to face at least one Premier League opponent along the way. That's no fun. Some of my worst memories in the Champions League are playing Premier League opposition, but it looks like that because the Premier League is dominating this competition, top to bottom. I mean, Manchester City won't be happy with where they sit, but they have every chance to finish in the top 8 still. And there's going to be 5 Premier League teams potentially in the top 8. It really is possible that happens. So a pretty remarkable run for those teams in that competition, Tim. There are obviously a lot of performances to call out, but let's not bury the lead. Let's just talk. We'll talk some tactical stuff in this game a little bit too, because to your point, you said you're not as familiar with some of the players. The one thing that did stand out to me is they weren't as good as we were. They couldn't compete with us in some out of possession aspects of the game. But when they could get the ball forward, that's when you see quality like Lautaro Martinez or Thuram, come to the fore and they can hurt you, right? There were some moments where they could hurt us because if they did beat the press, they have the talent that a Fulham might not, or a Leeds might not. But anyway, Gabriel Jesus, let's just talk about it. I mean, Gabriel Jesus, when he arrived at Arsenal, not much needs to be said. He changed our lives, as Clive has said repeatedly. He was exceptional. He got a knee injury in a mid-season World Cup, no fault of his own. Basically hasn't been able to stay fit since. And there is a tendency when players have long-term injuries to write them off. He's a player who's trying hard not to be written off. He talked about playing with a smile on his face and how important that is for him and why he plays with that smile on his face, but he's gone through hard times. Whether this is a sign that he can be elite for us again, or just a really nice moment for the player, I'm not super concerned with. Time will tell. But I'm curious what you saw in this performance in terms of how he's developing back to a player we can really rely on in big moments.
Yeah, first of all, I felt like he needed this performance because that was starting to creep back, wasn't it? The kind of, he's finished and we can't, almost unusable. I never quite got there. But I definitely think he needed a performance like that to remind us of what he's capable of. And I always felt that he was likely to be a bit up and down coming back from injury. That does tend to happen to players. And really, I think we have to be realistic and say, yes, this player is probably fighting not to be finished physically at this level, which doesn't mean, finished at any level or anything like that. But I think he'll know that that next contract, this contract's up in 2027, what his next contract looks like and where it is, a lot of that's going to be decided in the next couple of months towards the end of this season. So he needed that. We needed him to have that as well, because we're still going to have to use him quite a lot irregardless. And one of the advantages of being 4,000 feet in the air for a game like this is you really do see some of the physical side of it, and particularly when the ball goes up in the air. And one of the things I've always thought he's very underrated at is his hold-up play. He's very good at duelling with centre-half. So I'll go back to one of his first games for Arsenal away at Bournemouth. And there's just, I think, 2 of the goals we score that day, he just takes it down out the sky from goal kicks and just completely kind of thrusts aside a couple of Bournemouth defenders, and he's got that in him, that physical level. He's never been like a regular goal scorer, but he's always had like a level of performance, and that he's able to do things like that. And I love the first goal as well, just because it feels like to me the type of goal we just don't score enough of.
Poacher's instinct.
Yeah,
kind of
yeah, just like a shot comes, because that is something I think that's translatable against, your low blocks, your Sean Dyche teams and all that. Someone has a shot, stick your leg out, and it might go in for you. And actually, it has been a little bit frustrating. It kind of feels like, when a box is crowded, the ball can ricochet around. And on one hand, you say, well, you need the players there to be able to run onto it. But sometimes you do just need the ball to fall to one of your players. So I was really pleased with that goal. Second goal as well, like a close range rebound style tapping. Like it felt to me like the sort, again, I think we always come back to Gyokeres on this. Feels like the sort of performance I'd really like to see from Gyokeres, like the really strong physical side, holding off centre halves, holding the ball up, and then getting a couple of scrappy goals. Obviously, Gyokeres comes on and scores a really, really good goal, so I don't want to have a go at him or anything. But it just, if we could get that consistently out of the combination of the three strikers we have, then it's not going to be perfect, but I don't think we need to be perfect up front. We need to be okay, and sometimes it's been a struggle to be okay. Jesus was really, really good in this game, and I want to see more of that, both from him, from Gyokeres, and Havertz when he comes back in.
Yeah, we'll come on to Gyokeres, who obviously scored a great goal of his own, and it is that thing for managers that sometimes what you wish for is one player to play great and the other player to stink it up and make your decision easy. What's really hard is when you have a big lummox who runs fast and gets him behind, and then you've got a little false nine who's dribbly, and they both have a good game, and now you got to decide which one of those guys to pick in the next game. Obviously, always better when all your players are playing well, but it makes it for a hard choice for Mikel. I will say, by the way, 1.54 XG in the first half for Arsenal, and Inter conceded 2 goals at home in the Champions League for the first time since 2011. So, a heck of an impressive accomplishment by Arsenal. Of course, we used a set piece to do it. We used central progression in the first goal. I will point out there was some really nice central buildup to that goal. Clive, maybe just a little quick bit on Jesus, because I just want to talk about the vulnerabilities we showed in the first half as well. It was more open than maybe we're used to. So quickly on Jesus.
Yeah. I got some things going through my mind.
Jesus spill the tea.
Right? So, and I think just going further into the team and the occasion, Tim's obviously done a lot more European away days than anybody I know, but it's a different game in Europe. As soon as the ball moves around, you realise the pressure of the crowd, the environment. Remember that time we went to Porto, Elliot? We thought, crikey, this is a different game. Yeah. So where is
the minute they start shaking that ball at the center circle and the Champions League music comes on, everything tightens up a little bit.
Everything tightens up. So on
Watch
that basis,
the other teams' rondos as well in the Champions League. Like if you're there for the warm up, like
sharp.
You're kind of
sharp. You're in a different environment. You're in a different environment where wisdom and understanding where you are is really important. And if you look at our team, that front, across the front end of that pitch, you've got technical players with Eze, Marino, Saka, Trossard, Jesus. Every one of them is a technical player that can look after that ball. So when you spin it into people, what you don't want to create, much like against Everton, we spoke about that recently, you don't want to create situations, I know you're going to talk about a few of them, Elliot, where we look technically inept and we are now in their environment. They're bossing the referee, they're bossing the duels, and then it's started to roll downhill away from you. And the selection of our team, with a strength at fullback, a lot of muscles at fullback, you come out wide, you're going to get hit. Then those fullbacks just immediately go forward. And I looked at a team and I tweeted out, we got ballers on this pitch. They all want it into the centre. They can look after it, control it. And Gyokeres is not a baller. I'm just giving you an example of a different type of player. On this day, this was the right team, And the result could have gone the wrong way. But I was really impressed with the team and how every player can look after the ball in different parts of the pitch, so we could then be more fluid. We can be central we want it to be. We can spin out wide we want to, but we can look after it and win our battles and win our duels out there. And we've also got Marino if you want to clip it up in the air and then go for a flick on and go from there. I loved the group. I loved how we built out. I loved how Saliba spun down the outside, and if he was there on the right wing to create an overload, then our centre half created it.
Yeah.
This is high level stuff that we're doing here.
He's doing a lot more of that. Yeah.
Well, if they're giving it to him, saying, yeah, you exit, then what can you do if you're now 30 yards at the pitch? Can you play? Well, he can play in the right-hand triangle. Right high up by the corner flag, he can still play. It's this high-quality stuff, which means they can't gang up on us, they can't run away. I thought it was top class. And Jesus just epitomised that rotation and fluidity. But you can't be fluid unless you've got Eze and Mourinho there offering you solidity down the centre of the pitch. Or I mean technical security and positioning, which means Jesus, if he wants to flit out to the left, I don't mind anymore because someone else is in the middle. And if he wants to flit out to the right, I won't get the ump because he's going where other people are not going. Rather than just deciding, I want to go over here because I feel comfortable, and then we have nothing in the middle. And so the balance of selection was really, really good, and I really loved the wisdom, technical security of the team. Enjoyed it a lot.
Do you have a comment then on some of the openness? I mean, this was not one-way traffic in the first half. There were some breakaway moments. They obviously got their goal really well taken, but there was a bigger chance before that. To be fair, Mascara does really well to close it down, and then the shot flies in, which is a great shot, but it's a good attack. There's the wide open moment for Thuram where he winds up slicing it wide. They did get some joy when they got around the press, getting numerical advantages against us running the other way. So any thoughts on how they were able to fashion some of those openings?
I think just looking at them as individual instances, we did, on our goal, I think we had 7 players in their box. So we really committed to attack, which I liked. But sometimes we would turn around and a default was to play backwards. And when we played backwards on the central area, I think Eze had one, I think Zubimendi had one, he put his hand up straight away. And then suddenly, their right wing back, who's quite sprinty, it's just a running race, right? That's all it is. It's a numbers game. It's just a numbers game. It's a running race and they can ping it forward. And what they tended to do, I felt this, and I haven't checked it, I just felt this from watching it, that they can hit Thuram from a distance. They like to hit a centre forward who likes to pin and get around him. Martinez get around him. And then, so they're sort of lengthening the pitch a little bit. You know, they're not all coming back in, which means they've got an exit if they want to. They've got running exits. And that's fine, isn't it? That's the trade-off that you take. I don't look at it. It's what people do. And I think we need to stop doing this. What people do, every time we get run through, we've got Declan Rice isn't playing. Well, we've got to stop that, haven't we? Because we're going to play 65 games this season, and he's going to play internationals as well. He can't play every single game. So we gambled on a front-footed press on occasions and inaccurate passing. There was one Jesus pass to Mourinho, was slightly inaccurate. They nicked it. Mourinho tried to buy a foul, didn't quite get it. They're running through. Timber's high and we're running back. It's football. You know, this is what we want. I want to see us push the needle a little bit, trying to get them back, trying to score, put them under pressure. And I think it worked out fine. I don't really care about the breakaways.
Yeah, first of all, there's nothing wrong with elite players impacting your ability to do things better. City haven't stopped a counterattack since Rodri did his ACL. Okay, okay, like it's okay to be less good at breaking up counterattacks when the best midfielder in world football is not in your team. Like that's going to happen. But to your point, Clive, it's also okay if you can win games 3-1 and out XG teams regularly, but it means you give up the odd extra chance. That's okay. Because you know what happens sometimes when you give up chances? I know it hasn't happened recently. Sometimes they don't take them. We have this thing because we've been burned by it where it's like, well, if we give up one chance, we'll concede one goal. But actually, as we saw in the Inter game, sometimes you play very front-footed. You batter the opposition. As a result of playing front-footed, they get the odd chance and they miss it. And they did in this game on a couple of occasions. And that's okay. There's so much to get to here, and I want to make sure we save a lot of time for a United preview. So we probably won't go as deep on this game as necessary. But I do want to ask you about Myles Lewis-Skelly, Tim, because this is a game where by the end, he was coming out of it with huge praise. I think the beginning was a little more mixed. And we're seeing with Myles that when he disengages, when he drops, the recovery pace is not good. Right now, I think there's some people that are saying he looks slower than he used to. I don't think he looks slower. I just think he didn't let himself get into space like that as much in the past because he was very front-footed and he would leap to intercept a ball or to engage with his man. And in some instances this season has been caught a little bit in space, and teams have taken advantage of that because he's just not that fast. I mean, let's just say it. He doesn't have tremendous pace. And that's okay. But as you saw in this game, he really grew into it, started to, I think, dominate his area and play in the way that he's more effective. So could you talk me through that a little bit? Maybe some of the vulnerability and how his pace was exposed early, but then how he was able to grow into the game and get better, because it was a really rocky start for him. And then all of a sudden we saw more of the Myles that we came to expect last season.
Yeah, I think there's a few things here. I think, first of all, and Clive, I know you said this on the instant reaction, I think there's probably an element to which playing in Europe possibly suits him a little bit more, maybe like slightly less physical in that respect, that maybe he's less of a known quantity as well. So
for being targeted, you mean? In particular?
Yeah. But also when he gets the ball and takes into midfield and all of that. But because what's his other best performance really? I mean, this is up there with his best performances. The other one was the Bernabeu. So there's obviously something about playing in Europe, whether it's the occasion and it's a psychological thing, whether it's tactical, physical, I don't know. I'd say learning about this player though, sorry, excuse me. Learning about this player, you say he's not fast. I think you're right off the ball. He's not with the ball. He accelerates with the ball. And I think that goes for defensively as well. I think chasing...
It's like Bukayo Saka, by the way. Similar traits. Yep.
Yeah, like chasing the ball when it's really moving. Yeah, sometimes he can look a little bit like he's running through treacle. I played at fullback myself and I had very much the same thing. I found when the ball went over my head, I lost a bit of hope, Want
to hear more about his career, Tim?
Oh, well, yeah. But I could stay with a player. When I was with them, I could stay with them. But once they got that couple of yards where I was a bit out of position, again, I don't know whether it's psychological or to do with your physical profile or whatnot, but it's that kind of, he's got a yard on me and I probably haven't got it in me to get that yard back. Whereas if you go stride for stride, and, Myles can push people about as well. And I think he did in this game as well. Once he's near the touchline, once he's somewhere quite secure, I think it almost, do you know what it reminds me of a little bit? Is actually Xhaka in a weird way, in a slightly different position. You know how playing that deep midfield role, he could look really out of place because it's a massive space to cover. And he'd panic and he'd pull shirts and he'd kick ankles and stuff. But then when Arteta recognised the physical profile of the player and kind of just said, do you know what, I'm going to give you 100, 200 metre straight lane, no turning, no looking at your shoulders, no, just run up and down all day. And he could do that. And I kind of feel like it's not exactly the same with Myles, but there's something about his physical profile, I think, when he's with a player, he doesn't get bullied, I don't think, in those one-on-ones. It's when the ball goes over his head and the guy starts going off into the distance, I think he can really struggle. And I think probably what you saw in this game as well is there has been a confidence issue this season, because once, like you said, he didn't start the game amazingly, but once he got his first tackle in, and I think once he realised that Arsenal were on top on this game and that, they in the San Siro, they were dominating just like the Bernabeu, and obviously we had a lead when we went there. And I think he felt secure. He felt that kind of, okay, this game's all right. This game's all right. And I think it's also massively to his credit because, as you guys just alluded to, I think there's an element to which Arteta took the handbrake off a little and was prepared for this to be a game of one-on-one duels. I don't think he'd do that in the Premier League. I think in the Premier League, it is a bit, particularly away from home, it's like we must retain our shape. Whereas there was less jeopardy here, and I think it was a little bit not caution to the wind, not that far, but it was a bit like, if this becomes a game of one-on-one duels, I'll take the chance that my players are better than theirs. And I think so Myles was left one-on-one quite a lot. I almost think perhaps he likes that as well, in a sense, the sense that this guy's my responsibility. Gabriel's not playing, he's not running over to save me if I don't put this guy in the crowd, type thing. And I think there's possibly an element as well where maybe there was less of a safety net and it was, okay, I got to stick with this guy here. I don't know, maybe all projection, definitely all speculation on my part, but I think the bottom line is he got some confidence in this game from somewhere.
Yeah, I think It's interesting. I thought you can tell.
Sorry, I was on mute there. I meant to say Clive.
Yeah, I know. I saw you. I saw your mouth moving. I thought, well, he wants me to say something. And so with Myles, it's all about how he feels about himself, really. And you could tell. I could tell from the moment the camera went across in Champions League music, he was going to have a good game. He just looked ready for the moment, And I thought he started fine, actually. The only moments, again, we do this thing where we have these things in spaces. We see a wing back has got a run on him, and he's now running in the same TV screen, and we all say he's now not looking that quick. Well, I thought he looked quick enough. He blocked off the far post so the guy couldn't get a shot in, and he made a lot of defensive challenges. And for me, the things I look for, the things I've seen recently where he's been far more hesitant before he makes his actions. Hesitant on his dribbling, hesitant on his tackles, and hesitant when he's on a bouncing ball, how to deal with it. And when I saw him being decisive, I thought, oh, you're back now. You're being solid. You're getting to tackles. I felt last year he played like a new player for us, an 18-year-old man. This year, I think he played like a 19-year-old boy. But I thought the man returned in this game, and he started to put his shoulders into them. He started to play diagonal. So you can almost see the game being built, pass after pass. And so I was extremely encouraged because at the core of him is his ability to win the contest. And I thought he won the contest and he locked down that side as best as he possibly could. And so now you can build again, right? So very much, if you think about his upbringing as a midfielder, so the way he tackles, he's tackling with what I call, he hasn't got the last man gene in him, right? So when we played 3-2 last year with a back three and with two in front and heels in front with Thomas Partey to his right, he's still a midfielder, really, because he can do anything he likes because the risk is low. Because there's always someone behind him to sweep up, and Gabriel or Kivior, and he can go in, he can take a gamble, he can press forward, because behind him was somebody else, and all he had to do was affect the attack, and if he could get it, turn out, spin and run forward, oh my God, we got a superstar in our hand. A lot more this year we've built up in a 4-2, and so now he's playing left back a lot more. His environment has changed, I've said before, but sometimes with talent and with analysis, I have a word in myself every now and again, and I have to remind myself that he went to the Bernabeu and played against Rodrigo, and we wanted him to play. And that was in wide areas, and he dealt with him. He played against Desiree Doué in Paris, and he threw him to the floor. He dealt with him. There was not an instant we can remember. So once you see it, you know that players lost his game, but it needs to be rebuilt. So people who are saying things, people who are ex-footballers saying things like, he can't defend. Well, are you a goldfish? He defended last year against the very highest level of the game. So what's happened? The environment's changed. Maybe a bit of confidence has happened. Maybe a realization where he is. Maybe the requirements has changed a little bit more. Maybe he needs rhythm that he had last year when he played 20-odd games. He hasn't got this year. It's just to wake up a little bit. 19, I find it really frustrating. We can all see the struggles, but have a brain, will you? Look what he's already done.
I'll defend the anxious people among us. I think writing him off is obviously a crazy thing to do. I think given the pressure on us to win things this season and the anxiety around trying to win things, every struggle from any player is being scrutinized as intensely as ever. And there is a real question for everybody about, can we do it? Can we get this over the line? Can we get that over the line? Can we win? Can we win? And I think it's leading to people making snap judgments. Now, to be fair, I think that's just part and parcel of football today. I saw a social media post.
I do it.
Yeah, well, I saw a social media post yesterday because Chelsea won 1-0 over Paphos, which is a hilarious shit performance, but still a win, and it's fine. Like, I saw a relatively large following Chelsea social media post with a lot of shares saying, let's just fail fast with Rossinior and admit this isn't working and sack him. Now, look, I'm not going to sit here and say I think Rossinior is going to succeed. I don't know if anyone will succeed at Chelsea. But, like, they're talking about sacking the guy already. He's coached 2 games for the club. So, yeah, there's just this snap judgment thing happening in football in general. What will be interesting, look, Myles definitely put in the kind of performance that I think will give Mikel a lot of confidence that he's starting to find his way back into form. It'll be interesting because if Calafiori is not fit for the weekend, if Nkapie is not fit for the weekend, he will then have to make that decision to go Ben White at right back and Timber at left back. And I'll just be honest, I don't think Timber has impressed at left back particularly. Or to keep Timber in his preferred position and let Myles face a very dangerous counterattacking side who can put players like Mbeumo or Ahmad on the wing, and we'll discuss that in a moment. I still want to talk about Eze a bit. Certainly Victor Gyokeres' goal. Not that he needed one, but nice to see him get one, of course. And Manchester United. But before we do that, we have, this is exciting, a new company to tell you about. And it relates to one of my favorite topics, food. And that is Factor. All right. I am excited to introduce you to Factor because Factor is a way to get great, healthy, fresh meals delivered to your door. You heat them for 2 minutes and you eat them. Now, across my life, both as a single person and now as a married person with a family, I have found planning for meals, shopping for meals, finding ways to get the meals that I need that are healthy, that are balanced, that are delicious, a pain in the neck. And I'm sure everybody listening, maybe not everybody, but a lot of people listening can associate with this. Look, do I like to cook every once in a while? If people are coming over, it's special, make a nice meal, sure. But the average Tuesday night, the average night of the week, getting the food you need, getting the meals ready, going shopping for the groceries. Oh, it turns out I don't have this. How did I not have this? And then you wind up doing stuff like DoorDash, which is expensive, or you're ordering food, or you're getting a pizza. Well, Factor meals have lean proteins, they have colorful vegetables, they have healthy fats, they have GLP-1 support meals if you are on a GLP-1, they have Muscle Pro meals if you're trying to build muscle and strength and recovery so you can pick your goals, healthier eating, calorie management, more protein, whatever you're trying to accomplish. They are fresh meals, never frozen, ready in 2 minutes. No prep, no cleanup, no mental load. And you don't have to know how to eat better because they take care of it too. So head to factormeals.com/ArsenalVision50 off. I'll put that in the show notes. Use code ArsenalVision50 off. Factormeals.com/ArsenalVision50 off. Get 50% off your first Factor box plus free breakfast for a year. Offer only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase. Make healthier eating easy with Factor. And this podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp is therapy. BetterHelp helps you work through the things you're working through so you can let them go. I am a person who holds on to every worry and then I cogitate. Do you do that? Do you have a worry stuck in your mind and it's always there like a splinter? It's maybe not in the forefront of your mind. It's maybe not the thing you're thinking about as a priority, but it's in your mind. You're cogitating on it and it is holding you back. It's causing you anxiety. You're biting your nails. You're worry eating. You're doing something. I am that person and it has held me back my whole life. I spent time in therapy to work on it and it was hugely valuable to me. If you want to get obstacles out of your way, BetterHelp is therapy, and BetterHelp can help. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is one of the world's largest online therapy platforms, having served over 5 million people globally, and it works with an average rating of 4.9 out of 5 for a live session based on over 1.7 million client reviews. Okay? So, what do we want you to do? We want you to go to betterhelp.com/vision. BetterHelp makes it easy to get matched online with a qualified therapist. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/vision. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/vision. Do it now. Is that enough of that?
Indeed.
No. Okay. Let's quickly touch on Eze's involvement. Tim, it was a performance that I think divided opinion a bit. I always think those are interesting. And I think it's simple. Why? Because he's just a very different type of player in midfield than maybe what we're used to. On ball, all action, physical, strong, middle third players. And that's not who he is. He did have some really interesting cameos. He had a big moment in the central build-up to the first goal. He had a shot that he placed instead of striking. But you see when he gets the ball around the edge of the box, when he gets the ball near the D, I think he's our best player in that little zone, in that little pocket when he gets it. But the influence waxes and wanes, and there are times when he's loose with the ball as well. He has the thing Ethan has, I think, which is a prodigious talent and a desire to do things that impact the game in a positive way, but a willingness to lose the ball and take risks in doing that. And that is a risk-reward profile that with Mikel Arteta is a difficult one to balance. So I love the player's talent. I think it was a mixed performance, is fair to say.
Yep.
But I'm curious what you noticed from it in terms of both the good and the bad.
Yeah, very mixed. I think also something that's going on with the analysis of this player is we're also desperate to see more of him. And that kind of informs and creates kind of certain biases, and also we perceive correctly, as it turns out, we've drawn our last 2 Premier League games 0-0, and so all of us want to see more of him, because we think, again, I think accurately, we're less likely to draw 0-0 if we've got Eze playing more minutes than he is at the moment. I think that's perfectly valid, and I feel that way as well. At the same time, I think some of us are hand-waving a lot of the downsides, which are often... It's not, to me, so much that there's like a risk-reward profile or that he can be loose with the ball. I always tolerated that with someone like Alexis Sanchez and all of that, and obviously there's a dial there, and you don't want to do that too much, particularly if you're trying to dominate teams like we do. That's not so much my quote-unquote problem or issue. It's more the non-involvement. That's kind of where I am a bit more, the anonymity at times. Now, there's really good stuff in this game in the build-up to the first goal. He makes a central pass in the build-up to that, which I think is really critical. It's not just spin it out wide to Saka. Let's see if Saka can beat 2 players again. Let's put another cross in, and Nottingham Forest's collection of 6'8" centre-backs are just going to head them out, kind of thing. And now we've got to bring Marino on because all we can do is cross the ball. You know, there is a kind of sense of that. At the same time, I think it would be remiss of us and kind of poor analysis to ignore the fact that there are reasons that he's not playing that much at the moment. And I think a lot of it is to do with spells of anonymity more than anything. And I think what's really... I've said this before this season about our attack. What's really strange about our attacking situation is we have so many polar opposite players, and that actually, like, and you want diversity of profile, but at the same time, like, there's wild swings between players and what they do. And I could not think of 2 players more opposed than Ødegaard and Eze. And I'm just not sure there is a future really in that kind of central position for Eze, unless we really change what it is and make it a second striker, which I don't think we're going to do. And going back to our discussion about Ethan Nwaneri earlier, if Eze's one of the central players, then Nwaneri's loan spell is not going to be a good use of Arsenal's time, because what's going to happen? He's going to come back this summer and exactly the same players are going to be there. That problem's not going to go away. So for me, there has to be a shift towards using Eze on the left. Otherwise, I think we risk not getting the best out of that player. We risk wild swings in profile in that position, which I don't think is good for the team. And I think we risk, losing Ethan as well. For me, Ethan and Ødegaard, that feels like a good, reasonable diversity of profile, because Ethan Nwaneri's more likely to score a goal, I think, more likely to do the final action, whereas Ødegaard's your build-up guy, I think, more or less. Whereas Eze on the left wing, and then maybe that again, thinking about Ethan, if that happens, then probably one of Martinelli or Trossard does go in the summer. And we just, I think we've got one body too many, basically, in attack. That's my kind of slightly hot take. And that one of them kind of has to drop out, really, for a player like Ethan to really have a future at Arsenal, which I really want him to. I kind of don't want a Salah, De Bruyne at Chelsea situation where we lose a potentially generational talent because we've stockpiled quite good players, So I am, I guess, anxious is overstating it, but I just think for our long-term health, whether that's Eze has to learn the left wing position or Arteta has to trust Eze in the left wing position, I suspect there's got to be a meeting in the middle there. But I don't think of Eze as a really central player. I don't think that's really that good for anyone unless we drastically change what we do.
You're doing anxiety on easy mode though, Tim. The real trick is being anxious that Ethan is going to block Max. That's where you got to get. I'll help you get there. Clive, your thoughts?
I thought he had an interesting game, and I suppose when I'm trying to look at this player and look at our midfield, I'm trying to keep my mind open to the fact that every team is playing every 3 days, and we're the one team that seems to be coping with it because we can make changes of really high quality players. And so part of my I don't care about the first 11 rants, it's about keeping my mind open, really. to what can happen. But we all try to sneakily put a player into where we think is going to best suit. Then that game happens, and then that player in that position does not suit that game. So really, I then look at it and say, okay, what am I seeing from this player? And I like the courage that he shows to receive the ball in central areas. So first things first, he doesn't always keep it in there, but he's in there to receive it, and his first touch is like silk, rolls away, and the play just happens from the back of him. I can't get over the word that John McKenzie used. He's so associated. He brings other players into game. He knocks it off in one, and they're running into 15 yards of space. How does that happen? Because he does the difficult stuff, the technical stuff, that cleans it up, and he knocks it off to other players. And Marino's got a bit of that about him as well. So I really like that aspect to his game. For me, it's not an either-or for Odegaard. So because they're two different players completely. One is far more high touch, ball dominant, much more strategic in how he drives our whole attack. Another one is about moments, about being in the right areas, about getting shots in, about high technical dribbles, a bit of strength, a bit of power, a bit of protection. He's just different to how he appreciates space, and it took me a while to get there. But if you're going to compare the two, then you're in a bit of trouble, really, because they're not the same, and we want different things on different days, and that's where I am with football at the moment. You know, this game is a real instruction to how we can be different to the Forest game, and I think Tim is there watching these games. I mean, they're just different. It's night and day, night and day. So why are we trying to put him into a box? Why are we trying to conclude what he's going to do? Because we don't know the game plan. It's just changing. Do you know the game plan for Sunday? Because I don't.
Yes. Do you want me to share it or keep it secret so that United doesn't find out?
I don't know how we're going to play on Sunday. I don't know who we're going to play. I don't know how we're going to play. But I know I've seen about 5 different styles in the last 5 weeks. And some I like better than others. But I think Eze is a big part of where we're going. So think back to how he arrived at our club. I think we were interested in him early in the summer. That interest went down. Ethan signs a contract. Kai Havertz gets an injury. We make a risk decision. We bring in a versatile attacker that can play left wing, right 8, left 8, number 10. That versatility has allowed us, not just him, but other people as well, to be top of the league and top of the Champions League. So I'm looking at year one as have a look at him. Make him be versatile. Kai Havertz has not played yet. So make him be versatile. Make sure that he can help bring this team whenever we need him. So that's why I'm with him. I'm not at conclusion, but I do like what he adds to this team. I do like the freshness I feel. I do like the shots. I do like the risk. I do like the technical level. I like the uncontrolled bits about him because we are quite a controlled team. We are not top of the entertainment charts. We love this team, but others don't. And we have him to offer that bit of spark. So I almost want to encourage the Ethans and the Ezes because we need those players alongside the Marinos who are structurally excellent and the Declan Rices that take the fear away from us. Take the fear away because they're so good in what they do. But we need these guys too, so we need to create room for them to develop, so that's why I'm there.
Yeah, well said. I'm going to go a little bit ranty here. It's always when I'm at my best when I say the most incoherent shit that people hate. So let's do that because you know what? I haven't been on the pod in 10 minutes. Look, Eberechi Eze has to play left wing. He has to. Or this signing makes very little sense to me. That's where I'm at with it. Ethan Nwaneri is an incredible player, a sensational talent, and ready to impact this team wherever Mikel is willing to put him. Okay? Eberechi Eze is a sensational player. But it seems clear to me that his profile as a midfielder is not the preference for what Mikel Arteta would like in those spaces, due to the way we prioritize not losing possession in central spaces and some of the things that he does out of possession. If we did not plan to use him off the left, then I don't really understand the signing. And there are people that are going to say, Elliot, we wouldn't even be at the top of the Premier League without him because he had to play during Odegaard's injury. There may be truth to that. There may have been other solutions in the squad we could have used in that position that would have kept us in as good a position. Now, look, he's already given me some of my favorite moments of the season. The goal against Palace was excellent. The assist for Martinelli against City, the 3 goals against Spurs. So you could be saying you're undermining your point, and you're right. But here's where I'm going. Left wing is still the position that, for me, we don't have an established solution for with a player that you say, that's the guy, game for your life, you're playing. Leo has been brilliant. I think you might say that he's in a period where he's slightly down from that really high peak he was at. Martinelli, very good player. Is he a nailed-on starter for us? Is Nani a left winger for us? We don't know. That's a position where there is a debate to be had. And we know that Eze is uniquely capable of providing sensational moments in the final third. So play him there and let him come inside a little bit and see what you get from that position. I really do believe that he's a player we should try to get on the pitch more, because I think he will give us more of what we need, which is goals and attack and final third influence. And we have to be creative in how we get him there. And I just simply do not believe there's going to be a world where Mikel is going to be comfortable playing Eberechi Eze in midfield regularly when he has other options to pick from. And by the way, I'm not criticizing Mikel for that. I think Mikel's probably right. But that means, how do we get him on the pitch? And so if we're not going to use him at left wing, I start to really struggle to understand a very expensively acquired top talent, one of the best players in the Premier League last season. And so I am giving you my selfish take. I love the player. I want to see him play. I think left wing is a position that I can understand how he can influence it there. I thought that was a role he might get. He had to move into midfield when Odegaard was injured. Leo took the position, made it his own. I get that. But now I think it's time to see more than just one game where, I get it, Matty Cash ran him, and ever since then, that's been the end of that. But Clive, for me, left wing feels like a position where we can get a look at this player in ways that maybe don't expose us to some of the stuff that Mikel might be more reluctant to expose us to.
I've seen him play left wing. He played left wing against Forest, start of the season, was absolutely brilliant.
Played left wing for England.
Yeah, and was absolutely brilliant. And he's played left 8, he's played right 8, he's played stick on 10. I don't think it's a problem, Elliot. Honestly, I don't think it's a problem. As we've seen this week, there are different games. I just don't think it's a problem. If I'm thinking where I hope he can add more value, it's probably on the left wing. That depends on his his fullback combination that really allows him to stand in the areas that he wants to stand in, the relationships, and where,
that's a really good point.
And where he's allowed to go. I mean, Saka had one of his best ever games today, playing with Marino. Tuesday. He had one of his numbers were incredible in this game. And we could look into that. Why has that happened? Was it Timber back on his side? Was it Marino playing with him? Was Eze not being over there, crowding that space, allowing him some one-on-ones? We don't know. This will all come out in the information. What we're learning is about the relationships that are on the team. And some of these relationships really worked in this Inter game. For the United game, we might want to do something else. On the home pitch of the Emirates, where the grass is beautiful and smooth and the ball speed is high, we might want something else. Much more ball manipulation of Odegaard. We can get hold of the game, shut United up, make sure they don't get too chippy. You know what I mean? Just get hold of it. All I'm saying here is keep the mind open to what we need, and we're making 4, 5, 6, 7 changes a game in 4 competitions. I don't see anyone playing 65 games. My mind is just open.
Yeah. No, and that's a really smart point, which is simply with the amount of football we have to play. I mean, there are going to be people whose counterpoint to what I've said is, Elliot, Eberechi Eze has already played more football at this stage of the season than he has in any season of his career.
Yeah.
But I think that's using data to be too clever by half, because do people think the reason Eze hasn't been playing recently is because Mikel's managing his minutes? Or do we think it's because Mikel's putting the guys on the pitch he prefers? I'm not saying I know the answer. I'm saying I have a suspicion. And just so we're clear, the goal of Arsenal Football Club is not to get Eberechi Eze playing time. It's to win things. And Mikel should put the team out there that he thinks best suited to do that. And Mikel Arteta has proven he knows that better than anyone, because we're winning everything. We're winning the quad. So how can I complain we need to get the player I like on the pitch when we are literally winning the quad? But I will say that the signing makes more sense to me if he gets more opportunities to show what he can do from the left, because I do acknowledge that Mikel may have a point. We all may have a point that he is a weird fit for our midfield in some ways, but could be a sensible fit at left wing. I'd love to see it. That's all I'm saying. And the rest of it,
I find it quite strange. When you were discussing Eze, because you were the one that wanted him the most, I actually said the word, I wonder if we can get a bit of a Smith Rowe problem with him. regarding where he fits in the team. Is he a left winger? Is he a left 8? Is he a 10? But really, we play Odegaard as a 10. And you were so adamant we need to get Eze in. Now we've got Eze in, and I think you got those concerns, and I've thrown them away. I've gone the other way. And so actually, football's changed. Like, stop whining about it. Just be good. Make sure you can play on and off the ball, because off the ball, you don't play to do that for Mikel Arteta, mate. You might as well go home. And he's building his game. He's building his Arsenal game. Wekes needs to build his game, doesn't he, to be complete? And so I'm much more relaxed than even you are, Elliot, which I find interesting.
Yeah, well, and you know what, Clive? Mikel Arteta has shown another thing, which is he sometimes may have a plan A and a plan B for a player, and those things develop over time. For example, when we bought Rice, everybody's like, Declan Rice, there's our stick on 6. Nope, he's our 8. When we bought Kai, we know that he was bought to be a midfielder. But eventually, Mikel had to come to the conclusion that really his best impact is as a striker. These things are very fluid, right? And they change over time, and we have to be patient to understand them and how they change. I mean, the thing that I have to acknowledge, if I'm going to whine, is that Eberechi Eze has been a huge contributor to why our season is successful so far. What I don't think, and I think this is where there's bad faith, the idea that this is a binary between Odegaard and Eze is just nonsense. It's just nonsense. And I get why people wind up there, because there's 3 players that can play in midfield and you're not taking Zubimendi or Rice out, so it becomes a binary. There is no comparing those players. They're simply different. Eze is not good at the things Odegaard is good at. And Odegaard may not be quite as good at some of the things Eze is good at. And so creating that binary is not helpful. I mean, Mikel Merino plays in midfield, and he's not like either of those players either. So we just have to get comfortable with different profiles, but I would like to see this player find ways to be on the pitch so that we can influence games in the final third. And that may come with some risk to conceding, but as we saw in this Inter game, sometimes you have a little risk of conceding and you win 3-1 instead of drawing 0-0. Tim, we got to wrap up this game. So let me do this. I'm going to read a quote. We're not going to do a section on Mascara. He deserves it. He was great, but I'll just read the quote that Mikel gave about him. I'm very happy. I think he's a player that normally would be back 2 weeks after he is. So the medical staff, physios, sports science, and himself, they put all the hours in the day to try to make it happen early, because we know that we are very short in the back line. To play against the 2 strikers in the manner he's done, it's remarkable. Point blank, he has proven to be a sensational signing, and I am very excited to watch his career at Arsenal. So happy we have him. He's versatile. He's powerful. He looks very intelligent and very skillful, and I'm thrilled that he's at the club. Victor Gyokeres is probably the more interesting conversation, though, Tim. Look, the way he takes his goal is brilliant. It's sort of the USP of what we thought we were getting with him, a guy who strikes the ball cleanly and powerfully when he has space. He hasn't been getting those shots off in the Premier League. He got the shot off great. Wonderful. But the video of that goal, I can watch it over and over again, because the minute possession turns over, this guy is in a dead sprint, and he looks like the fastest, hardest running player I've ever seen. And for anybody that thinks he's slow, he's a lummox, he's an ox, watch the video, not the part where he scores the goal, the part where possession turns over in our defensive third, because he's shot out of a cannon. And huge credit to Martinelli, by the way, because the criticism has been when he makes the run, we don't find it. It's a really intelligent pass into him. I think it's great that he's trying to pick up Bukayo Saka, and I think it's great that he gets his shot off and scores. But that little moment, Tim, is everything people have sort of thought he could be. Hard running, great acceleration, good shot. Many of the things that we didn't feel we were seeing enough of, and there in that one moment we saw all of it.
Yeah, definitely. And listen, it's probably the same for both strikers, isn't it? There was a little bit more room in this game, so that probably wouldn't happen in a Premier League away game. If that ball would have dropped to the edge of the area at the City Ground on Saturday, what do you reckon would have happened? There'd have been, like Nottingham Forest's like Space Jam style defence would have just like sprouted out the ground and just blocked it. Like when there's no space, there's no space. Whereas a bit more space.
Well, look, I mean, he had a breakaway against Forest, and Murillo tracked him down, and they blocked the shot.
Yes. Yeah. This is just like, if I felt that Gyokeres this would just happen all the time. It's almost like this slightly tortured analogy. When I was younger, my brother-in-law owned a driving range, and I kind of temporarily thought that might mean I'd be good at golf. But like whacking the ball as far as you possibly can is really good fun, and I really enjoyed doing it, and I got quite good at it. But obviously, that and actually playing the sport of golf, quite different skill sets. If I felt that like the ball would drop like that for Gyokeres 10 times a season in the Premier League, cash money, because I was right behind it. The second it dropped to him, I knew where it was going, and I knew it was going in. Like that is one area of his game I have no doubt about whatsoever. Unfortunately, in the Premier League, he's struggling. We know he can strike the ball. Unfortunately, like, the space is at such a premium in Premier League games, and that's across the league. You know, I think you guys talked about it on a previous pod as well, but there's been more 0-0 draws this year already than we had last season. Like, a lot of strikers are finding life tough at the moment. Erling Haaland hasn't been scoring recently as well. Like, and that's a big part of Man City not winning games anymore because, you know, like I said a couple of weeks ago, somehow us scoring from set pieces all the time is this big problem. But when Man City are reliable on a source of goals, it's okay because it comes in the shape of a striker, and we can all recognise that. So, yeah, it would be nice if I felt like that kind of chance would happen a bit more often in the Premier League. But also, it might have been like a little bit of a response as well. Again, don't know, speculating. But Gabriel Jesus has started. He's played. It's very much like when Jesus scored off the bench against Aston Villa, where Gyokeres, played for 70 minutes or so, and then like Jesus just curls one in from the edge of the box with basically his first touch. So, a little bit of, I don't think you want to call it payback, but, a little bit of something swinging back in his direction. But I hope it helps his confidence as well, because I do think, a bit like Lewis-Skelly, confidence has been an issue for him.
Clive, anything to add there? Because I want to wrap up on this game.
Yeah, I think I stayed with Gyokeres, and I think the reason why I've stayed, I'm going to say, I've seen him play better than this. I asked myself a question: are we overplaying him because he's had to play so many minutes? Every time he gets a rest, he looks sharp. And I think his game, for me, is built in his physicality and his ball striking. He's not a technician. He's a big bully with a big right foot and left foot, and that's what he is. With a bit of space to get going, he can do a bit. When he's running through, he was running through against Barella, who's a midfielder. He just saw him off. When you're running through against Murillo, who's one of the premier £80 million centre-backs in the league, you can say to yourself, well, he's rubbish, or is Murillo quite good? Murillo made a mistake, he got in. I think that's a positive thing. That's something we don't do. No one else can run away, apart from maybe Havertz when he's fit. So I see that as a positive, not a negative. I'd stay with him because I think we need that striker in our club. Simple as that. We do. If we're relying on Jesus still to play every 3 days, I'm sorry, I'm telling you now, we're going to be disappointed. We haven't seen Kai yet, so we need Gyokeres. We absolutely need him. Whether he starts or finishes, I don't care. I thought the shot was great. I thought the second shot, that's the player I saw in Lisbon, taking shots that are taken out of top tier. But there was no decision. It was like instant, bang, there you go. I'm the man, I'm taking my shot. That's going to end up changing that situation. That's going to go under the bar eventually. And then we're going to say, what the hell have we got here? Then we say, oh, he lacked a bit of confidence. It was always in there. We just got to give him time to settle. I think there's a player there, may not be the sort of player that our eyes warm to, but the sort of player that I think we need. What's happening, just to touch on this a bit longer, Elliot, what's happening in football at the moment, out of possession coaching is just out of this world. It really is. It's easier to coach out of possession than it is to coach in possession patterns. Much easier. Everyone's squeezing space. Sean Dyche can do it. Scott Parker can do it. And they can get results against Liverpool and Arsenal respectively in one weekend. And we say the Premier League is of higher quality. It's just different. There's so much fear. There's so much cash. How can I keep this club in the league? Because that's 120 million straight away, base, probably 150. Why is the Championship playoff game the richest game in the world? Because 2 years Premier League money with parachute payments is probably worth over 200 million. That's going to drive an environment of fear, of conservatism, reduction of space. And then it's going to drive us to drive our opinions based on that. It's just where the game is. And then we have to come up with ways to overcome that. Hence the discussion we had after Nottingham Forest around proximity, taking risky passes, moving the ball into central areas. It's a different discussion we're having after Inter Milan when there's a little bit more space. We were much more central, much more front-footed and aggressive with our press. We weren't doing that at Forest. And so every game is different. And I think Gyokeres will have his time at Arsenal. I really believe that strongly. It may not be what some people want to say. Some people say, Clive, just got to get rid of him. Foul fast, just get rid of him. He's not what we want. Go and get Ikatike or go and get Isak. Well, they've had their struggles too. So I just think I'm going to stay with him until he tells me otherwise, that he's just so bad that he tells me otherwise. But I think he's going to improve. I think it's going to be a big part of our near-term future. 5-year contract, not 5 months.
Yeah. You mentioned revenue, so I'll mention it. By the way, Arsenal, according to the Deloitte Money League, have now moved ahead of Manchester United, maybe for the first time in history in terms of revenue. We have roughly 300 million more in revenue than Inter Milan, 400 million more than AC Milan, who are less than half our revenue. The might of the Premier League is being flexed financially, and you're seeing the impact. A couple final moments. One thing, if you can scour social media for it, there's a hilarious video going around. Esposito came on and was a bit physical with Mascara. So Mikel brought Gabby on. Gabby came on, and he showed this Esposito guy what physical looks like. It's a great video. Every time they're off the ball, he's just up in his shorts, pushing him down, bodying him, shouldering him. It's great. Another little note, though, Arsenal minding the details, as you expect under Mikel Arteta. Marino and Rice getting yellow cards to see them banned from the Chirac game, rather than carrying the risk of suspension into the quarterfinals, because cards do not reset at the end of this phase. So we will not have to worry about Rice getting a yellow that sees him miss a quarterfinal leg, and we will not have to worry about Marino getting yellow that sees him miss a quarterfinal leg. Really smart, really sensible. As a final point here, and Clive, I'll just stay with you for a second. Manchester City get beat by Bodo Glimt. It's not going great for them. Erling Haaland as the ump. Pep scratching his face again. And it's not going great there. They have a chance to fall out of the top 8. They're currently not in the top 8. Now, I looked at the next set of results, and I think they got a decent chance to sneak back in there. But if they don't finish at the top 8, they're going to have playoff games in between, wrapped around their game against Newcastle in the Premier League. It's not going to be good for them, a team that's already a little bit thin in certain areas. They're on the struggle bus at the moment, and that's good to see. What are your quick thoughts on the state of the Champions League table and maybe Manchester City wobbling?
Yeah, I think we can clearly see the physicality of the Premier League and the coaching quality of the Premier League. It's gone to a level now where Spurs can rock up against Dortmund and put them to the sword. And Dortmund have been to more European finals than we have, and so I think City are struggling a little bit. They're playing kids in the back line. I mean, I almost don't want to talk about them, to be honest, because what they've done to football and our footballing lives has maybe changed how we look at the game. How they've added so much finance into that club, into that area, into that ground, into that environment, has made us look at ourselves in a slightly different way. 100-point teams, 97-point teams, and we judge ourselves on the back of that. And I just want to look at Arsenal and just say, okay, the fact we're competing with that nation state and have done for 3 years is just incredible. There are things that we can do better, and we are here to discuss them, But I'm also keen to realise in the last 20 years, there have been 2 clubs that have really dominated the trophies in this country, and they're both under investigation. So let's just focus on ourselves and what we can do. And if Pep scratches his head off, mate, I'm going to laugh as loud as I possibly can, because I just want our club to get what they deserve to get based on their work and what they do on the pitch. Hopefully, what I know, with the right values of how we approach it. We don't get everything right, like no one does, but I recognise who our club is. And as for City, I want us to beat them while competing with them. When they lost to Liverpool, there were a couple of years when they just weren't there. Obviously, last year, they weren't nowhere near it because of things that happened. And the COVID year, they had a slow start. Liverpool had a fantastic, I think they won 26 out of 28 games, something stupid like that. And it was over. So there was no competition. There's no contest. I want us to have a contest with them. I obviously want them to win. So they have to look at themselves, and we have to look at ourselves and say, how are we going to get better? And do that from a position of strength. So I'm not sure if to answer that question, because Elliot, that club annoys me a lot, and how it drives the discourse. And if you ever let me get started, make sure you got a lawyer right next to you, because I'm not a fan of those 2 clubs in particular.
Well, I think that about covers that. Let's do our quick United preview then. But Tim is going to drop from that because he is contractually not permitted to discuss Manchester United per our lawyers. So Tim will turn off his camera and mic, and otherwise, though, we will talk to him on Monday's pod. Tim, enjoy the game this weekend. I hope it is a wonderful occasion at the Emirates, and we'll talk to you on Monday.
Thank you. Yeah, speak to you Monday.
Okay. Now, Clive, Manchester United. They pounded the absolute ever-living crap out of Manchester City last weekend. Honestly, it could have been 5 or 6, as people have been saying.
Yeah.
We are a different proposition. We are a difficult team to beat. You're not going to put 5 or 6 by us. You're not even going to put 3 by us if the last 2 years are any indication. But interestingly, United have been a bit of a bogey side for us, not necessarily in results, but in performances. We really haven't had what I'd regard as a great performance against United. While earlier this season, when they were really their dysfunctional form, granted it was the first game of the season, we went to Old Trafford and we got one of our biggest ass whoopings of the season. It just so happens we won the game, but we were, I think, outplayed. I think it's fair to say we were outplayed in that game. So while Manchester United are not as good as we are, and at the Emirates, I favor us, they've been a hard opponent for us. We don't know entirely what to make of them under Carrick, and they come off a resounding victory in a week to prepare for us because, as we know, they don't play European football anymore because they're shit. So how do you think about a game against a lesser United team that we have not always been able to dominate?
Yeah, so maybe because of the way I brought up, teams like Manchester United just scare me. Manchester United and Liverpool, they're the historical clubs along with Arsenal, and they always remember the sides of their badge when they play us. So they will come, even though sometimes they come with poor teams, it's always felt edgy. 3-2s out there, it's always felt edgy. They beat us in the cup last year, enjoyed it at the Emirates, and they found themselves again, haven't they? They found the Man United DNA. This is like United. So they've got, they went to their 4-4-2 off the ball. They're pushing on a left back, rolling into a back three like we did with Kieran Tierney back in those days. A manager's come along and decided, you know what, Bruno's quite a good player, but I don't want him in a double pivot. I may be sticking one up, and I bring in a double pivot who is a double pivot and can remind you who can actually do it. And so I've got 3 centre mids that can control the space. If I bring a fullback up, I've got someone to hit. I've got a tricky right winger, and I've got a centre forward in Bremer on this occasion. And Ahmad there playing together, 2 lefties, look after the ball, running behind, break, counter-attack, really exit smartly. Balanced team, Dallo right back, Shaw left back, Maguire big body centre back, Martinez lefty on the left-hand side. None of this 3 left-footers back 3 job. I mean, Elliot, I made a joke on my last podcast that I know non-league managers can set up Manchester United better than Amorim did. And I talked to some of them. So honestly, this is not difficult to set them up. And so now they've found a sense of organisation. So now it's going to be about, they come into the Emirates, they're sitting there well rested, 40-game season. They're going to come to say, okay, Arsenal, you come on to us, but we're going to spin wide, counter you, try to make you pay for mistakes that you make, and run off your centre-backs and try to move quickly. What I will say is I think we'll dominate the ball a bit more, and so technical accuracy is going to be very important. I keep saying it, but I will say it again. Ball speed is really important to what we do, how we move people around. And then when it comes down to it, it's Dallo on the right back and it's Luke Shaw on the left back. And we've got wingers. We've got 4 wingers we can throw at them that we can really hurt them and really go around them. And they could all play at the weekend. I'm interested to see what we do at centre forward. Sophie Gore said Gyokeres will play. I'm not sure, actually, Elliot. I'm 50-50 on that. But I think Superman, Rice, Odegaard will play. And go from there, right?
Anything specific for this game that you'd like to see Mikel do to counter either what their threat is or their weaknesses? I mean, there's a possibility that Nkapie is back, for example, and could come back in at left back. There are a lot of potential tweaks we could make. I mean, it is interesting. Bukayo Saka played. Did he play the whole game? He played the whole game, right, against Inter.
He did.
But this is a Tuesday, Sunday situation, so that may not be considered a factor. But he showed he's willing to play Nani against Forest. He's a stubborn guy. People were critical of that. Maybe he says, you think it was crazy to play him against Forest? I'll play him against United. I don't know. He's got to make decisions at striker. He's got to figure out how he wants to structure the left back. He has some big decisions to make.
Yeah, maybe Mikel's looked at it and said, look, I've got 4 away games. Because you're not playing in one of them. And the one I'm going to pick is Forest. You're not playing in that one. I'm not playing Nani at Chelsea because the whole ground would be about him. So he's not going to get a minute on that game. But you're going to play Inter Milan because that means a lot to me. And it means a lot to our European status. So we get €3 million every time we win a game. So you're going to play there. That's really important. The whole of Europe is watching that game. The Italian league leaders versus Arsenal. We may not have it in our eye line, but the rest of the world is looking at it. So he's played really well in that game and really improved his reputation, as has Gabriel Jesus, by the way. That wouldn't surprise me. He ends up in Italy next year. He was on trial, it felt like to me. He played so well, right? So, yeah, I think he may do the Timber left back thing again. With White at right back. White will be fresh. It makes sense. Get those combinations going again. I think Gyokeres will probably start. And I'm not sure on the left, actually. That's the one bit I'm not sure on. Martinelli always seduces me, and I always fall for it. And every time I want him to play, he does something stupid. But I thought even in this game, he came on and looked really sharp against Inter. He looked like lightning, looked really, really on it. And I'm thinking, we need to shake their block a little bit. So I'm looking at one-on-one ability in wide areas. Josh Hart's played a little bit of football lately. Again, he can come into the game. Eze can come into the game. So, yeah, we're in shape. We've invested our centre-back for the key moments, So we're in good shape at the moment. We're starting to get back to health. So that's where I am. Where are you, mate? Where are you? What are you thinking?
Yeah, this is weird. I find myself in a situation where I don't know what I think the best option is. I'm starting to think. I mean, Leo never puts in a bad performance. He hasn't this season. I obviously have my eye on the left wing. Already covered that. I think that's an area where it's an open question of what he should be doing there. Obviously, I'm always starting Bukayo Saka if he's fit and able to start. The center forward situation, it's a tough one. I instinctively feel uneasy with the idea of starting Jesus again for a second time in a week and expecting him to have the ability to go the distance. And what you don't want to do is start a player that may not be able to last the game. So I think he's an option off the bench. I'm very curious about Kai Havertz's situation. Easing him in is an understatement. He's not playing. He's making benches, but he's not playing. He's a player who, if Mikel thinks this is the moment, you obviously want Kai Havertz out there. If you can get Kai Havertz out there, I think that's an interesting one. Midfield, it may sound like it speaks for itself. I have to tell you, I think Zubimendi and Rice are written in pen. Every time I watch Mikel Merino play, I want to see more Mikel Merino. And I think that is a space.
Been there a while.
Yeah, I know. Well, look, I'm coming around to it, and their biggest danger man, who is very good against City and has always been good against us, and shows up for these games because he likes to play counterattacking football. And United are good when they can play like the minnow because they have the right talent for that. And Bruno Fernandes is exceptional at dropping into deep pockets and springing players. He's very, very good at it. And so having a body around him, someone to collide with him, someone to make it an unpleasant day, that's going to be really important. I would like to keep Timber at right back if possible, but I don't know that I'm ready to say I want to see Myles chasing down Ahmad or Mbeumo in wide areas, things like that. So there's a lot of, I think, complicated decisions for Mikel to make. The only thing I can say is we have such a deep team with so much talent that outside of Zubi, Rice, Saka, Gabby, and Saliba, I'm kind of fine with whoever he picks in whatever position he picks them. And then he has the options to change it from the bench. We've been very good at home. I think we will be very good at home again. But the thing that scares me with United, Clive, is principally that, again, I think they are a team with the talent that they have. And Sesko can run. Mbeumo can run. Ahmad can run. Bruno's great at springing players on the counter, right? I think Cunha is a great transition player. They're a team that can be very good playing in transition, and they get to play in transition in games like this,
Yeah, potentially. But we're quite a smart team, and yeah, I think if we play in their, I know it sounds a bit basic, right? But if we play their half, they're going to have to defend us in many different ways. They're going to have to stop us, foul us, give us moments where we can create set piece pressure and stress. They're not going to want to play in their half. I think they're going to be quite aggressive. I actually think they've got nothing to lose, got everything to gain. They're rebuilding the badge, right? They are absolutely cock-a-hoot confident. They really are. They didn't just beat Man City; they beat them up in all different ways. You know, what they have, Elliot, is something that they have energy. They have energy. You know, they're not playing a lot, so they can put. I don't think they're going to come and want to stand still. You know, I think they want to come and play. And this is the thing about Arteta's Arsenal, is our ability to play every phase of play, every type of game, low block game, high block game, mid block game, winger game, pods of threes, in pairs, a single 10, playing behind a striker, double pivot, single pivot, anything you want. Building a 3, building a 2, goalkeeper +1. What do you want to do? You know, so whatever you do, we can adapt to it. And that's the trick with us. And when I'm looking at the players, I'm thinking, can you do all of these phases? How many of these phases of play can you do? The more you can do, the more you're going to play. You know, so Declan Rice was rested. Why? Because they are the counter-attacking team. What is Declan Rice? Absolutely elite at. Stopping counter-attacks before they even start. You know, reading where the patterns are going, stopping them where he's going. I think he was rested strategically there. I'm not sure on the Odegaard thing. I think he'll play, and the reason why, he just understands big games at the Emirates and how to control them and how to set the game plan up. You know, I've critiqued him a little bit, particularly away, but at home, you don't hear a word from me. You know, get on the ball, get on it, get it moving, get us playing to our groove. There's a lot more pressure at home sometimes, you know, and I think he understands that, and he understands how to implement a game plan. So if it's a game for him, which I think if he's watching that game midweek and he's watching what's happening around him, he's thinking, mate, I need to put that armband on and show people what I can do. You know, so.
Yeah. I don't know. I will tell you this. Carrick is going to be, I think, inclined to want to play the same team he played against City because of the performance he got. I don't know. Is Casemiro fit? Do we know if he's fit?
I'm not sure, but he obviously played midfield in Manu, and the Dorgu thing is interesting. Playing off the left, obviously they can roll into a 5 if they want to, if they're under a bit of pressure. Ahmad is someone I don't always rate. I thought they might go Cunha up front and play Mbuemo there, which they may do at the Emirates for an away game. Have a couple of sideburns in there. Do you know what I mean? Like people. Well,
this is where I was going to go. I mean, he didn't use Sesko. He played Lautaro Martinez. He played Lisandro Martinez at center back.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to say this, right? I know it's become a meme, but if you're going to try to defend our set pieces with a bunch of guys who are 5'8" and Harry Maguire, you're in deep shit. Because other than Harry Maguire, everybody in that team is 5'8".
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ahmad, Mbumo, Cunha, Bruno Fernandes, Mainu, Lisandro Martinez.
Luke Shaw.
I mean, they are going to be in trouble on set pieces if they go with that team. And if you're going to play Kobe Mainu and Casemiro as a double pivot in midfield, you know what I'd say? Give me Marino and Rice, because they will get absolutely monstered. That is the least physical, least athletic midfield I've ever seen in my life if they go with that. Now, if they can sit deep, it may not get exposed, but I want players that we can body in. And I would say if they're going to go with their short lineup, we should go with our big lineup. And you play Kai if he's fit, but you play Gyokeres, you play Marino, you play Rice, you get the big guys out there. And look, it may not be pretty to say use set pieces, but if they're going to put 5'8" center backs and 5'8" center forwards on the pitch, then do what you're good at. So we'll see. But what I want is that first goal. And the reason is, first of all, we're unbeatable when we get first goals. But if United can play on the counter, I think we have to respect their threat. And we saw with Inter, a couple of times a game, Bruno's going to find that pass, or Cunha, if he plays, is going to find that pass. A couple of times a game, they're going to find Mbumo isolated in space, or they're going to find, Ahmad running in. They just are. And we have to be prepared for that. That's football. But if they have to come onto us and they have to push Casemiro and Mainu up the pitch, and they have to push those guys up, and now Lisandro Martinez and Maguire are defending in space, they're dead. They're absolutely dead. So let's just hope that we can get that early goal and force them to come at us. And then you've got Luke Shaw and Lisandro Martinez on their left-hand side facing Bukayo Saka running at yeah, you're dead.
Could be good. Could be good.
Yeah. Okay. I think we should leave it there. Been going a while. Clive, always a pleasure. We'll talk to you for Friday Night Clive tomorrow.
Yep, when we hear the press conference and see if we're right about anything.
Well, I can already get a spoiler alert. We're not. Yep, my name's Elliot Smith. We love you. Thanks for having me back. We'll have Phil taking over the pod permanently after my performance today. I'm kidding, but hopefully you don't root for that. But if you do, it's fine because we love Phil too. Anyway, so instant reaction on Sunday. Check out the Academy pod from yesterday. Check out Friday Night Clive tomorrow, or just, check out anything you want. We're fine with it. We don't police your goals and needs and wishes. We just want to be here for you. We love you. And we'll talk to you after Arsenal 10 United 0.